What do you do when the family you once knew suddenly returns, demanding what they believe is theirs? Grace had already lost so much, but now her own flesh and blood were trying to take away the last piece of security she had. How will she navigate this betrayal and fight for what's rightfully hers? Stay tuned to see how Grace stands up to the family she was abandoned by, and how she plans to reclaim her life and her legacy. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. My name's Grace, and life took a difficult turn when I was just 10. My dad had been sick for a while, but I didn't fully understand what was happening until the day he was gone for good. One moment he was there, and the next, there was just an empty seat at the dinner table. It didn't take long for my mom to try and fill that empty space. 2 months later, she brought home Victor. I guess she was feeling lonely and needed someone fast. Victor moved in like he owned the place, and it was clear he didn't want me around. "Grace, this is Victor. Victor, this is my daughter, Grace." Mom introduced us the day he moved in. Victor looked at me coldly, almost as if I were a nuisance. "Hi," I said, feeling awkward but trying to be polite. He just nodded, not even offering a smile. Turning to Mom, he said, "Linda, can we talk about the living arrangements?" I remember feeling a chill as they walked off, his hand on her shoulder. It didn't take long before I started feeling like an outsider in my own home. Victor imposed rules for everything, always on my case. "Don't leave your things in the living room. Eat faster. Don't make too much noise." It was non-stop. Mom went along with whatever Victor said, her eyes distant, maybe tired. I could never quite tell. One evening at dinner, things finally exploded. I accidentally knocked over a glass of water, and it spilled towards Victor. "Clumsy kid, can't you do anything right?" he snapped, jumping up as the water splashed onto his pants. "Sorry, Victor, it was just an accident," I stammered, feeling my face turn red. "Sorry doesn't clean up messes, Grace. Be more careful," he scolded, his voice rising. Mom just sat there, silently dabbing her mouth with a napkin. I looked at her, hoping for a word of support, but she said nothing. That night, I heard them arguing in their room. Victor's voice was harsh. "Linda, that kid of yours needs to shape up. I'm not going to live in chaos just because you're used to it." Mom's reply was soft, but I could catch bits of it. "Victor, please, she's just a child. She's still adjusting." "Adjusting? It's been months. I'm telling you, if things don't change—" I didn't need to hear the rest. The message was clear. Victor wanted me out of the way, and Mom wasn't putting up much of a fight. The months that followed were just as hard. Victor's complaints became a daily routine, and Mom's silence only grew heavier. I was walking on eggshells, trying not to make a sound, trying to make myself invisible. But how can you disappear in your own home? Even a 10-year-old knows that's impossible. Things got even more complicated when Mom told us she was expecting. Victor, already struggling to tolerate me, didn't exactly take the news well. There was a long silence before he spoke, his words cold. "Well, that's just great, Linda. Just what we needed," he said, dripping with sarcasm. Mom smiled weakly. "It's a blessing, Victor, you'll see. A fresh start for us." I felt a mix of excitement and dread. A little brother or sister seemed like a dream, a new person to connect with. But with Victor's mood swings, I wasn't sure what to expect. The months went by quickly, and finally, the baby arrived. It was a girl, and they named her Lily. I was thrilled. She was so tiny, and when I first saw her wrapped up in her pink blanket, my heart melted. I thought maybe Lily's arrival would change things, even soften Victor's mood. Holding her felt magical. She was so small, her tiny fingers grasping at nothing. "Hey there, Lily. I'm your big sister, Grace. I'm going to take good care of you," I whispered, silently promising to be there for her, no matter what. But the magic didn't last. Bringing Lily home changed things again. Victor became fussier than ever, especially about money. One night, about a week after Lily came home, I overheard him talking to Mom in the kitchen. His voice was harsh, louder than it needed to be. "More expenses, Linda. Diapers, formula, who knows what else? And what about Grace? She's not even mine, and I'm paying for her too." Mom's voice was a quiet murmur. "Victor, please. She's just a child. We can manage, things will settle down." "Yeah, it's not just about managing, Linda. It's about priorities. We need to think about our family now, our real family." I knew what that meant. I wasn't real family. The sting of those words hit me hard. I slid down the wall by my door, hugging my knees, trying not to cry. The final straw came when Victor sat us down in the living room one evening. His face was serious and he avoided looking at me. Linda, we need to think about the future. Grace is getting older and expenses are piling up. Maybe it's time she went to live with her Aunt Joyce. It felt like a punch in the gut, being sent away just like that. Mom finally spoke, looking at me with sad eyes. Grace, honey, it might not be so bad. Aunt Joyce has a nice house, and you'll be well taken care of. But Mom, I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you and Lily. The room went silent. Victor's next words were cold and final. It's decided then. I'll call Joyce in the morning. Moving in with Aunt Joyce was like stepping into a different world. Her house was big, clean, and always silent. Too silent for comfort. The first day I arrived, she laid down her rules like we were negotiating a peace treaty after a long war. You'll follow my rules under my roof, Grace. No nonsense, no mess, no backtalk, she declared as she led me through the hall to what would be my room. The room was plain, with bare walls and a single bed in the corner. It felt nothing like home. I nodded, too tired and upset to argue. Homework right after school, chores before dinner, and lights out by 8. I won't tolerate any laziness or sloppiness, you hear? Aunt Joyce continued, her voice firm. Yes, Aunt Joyce, I whispered. Speak up when you're spoken to. I'll have no mumbling here, she snapped. I quickly corrected my tone. Yes, Aunt Joyce, I understand. The days that followed blended into each other, each as strict and unforgiving as the last. Aunt Joyce was tough, tougher than anyone I'd ever known. She had a way of making simple conversations feel like interrogations. Homework was a battlefield too. If I got a B instead of an A, Aunt Joyce had sharp words for me. You can do better than this. Your laziness won't fly here, she'd scold, even though I'd spent hours poring over books. The worst part was how she reminded me of my mom's decision to send me away. If I dared to talk back or ask for less criticism, she'd retort sharply, No wonder your mom sent you here. You need discipline. You obviously weren't getting it. Those words hurt. They always did. They made me feel unwanted, unloved, like I didn't belong anywhere. I was just another problem Mom solved by sending me away. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I learned to keep my head down, do what I was told, and only speak when necessary. Aunt Joyce had no patience for tears or complaints, and I didn't have the energy left to fight. It's for your own good, she'd often say after scolding me harshly, as if her sharp words were supposed to make me into someone better. I wasn't sure who that better person was supposed to be. All I knew was that I was getting really good at being alone, at being quiet, and at not being a problem, because in Aunt Joyce's house, not being a problem was the best thing you could be. Living with Aunt Joyce felt suffocating, and every day I found myself missing my mom more, even though I knew she wouldn't have fought too hard to let me go. One afternoon, the weight of that longing became too much to bear. Aunt Joyce was out probably at her bridge club, and I knew I had at least a couple of hours to myself before she came back. Her phone, always left charging on the kitchen counter next to the fruit bowl, felt like the only connection to my old life. I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. Dialing my mom's number felt like muscle memory. I hadn't forgotten it, and I wasn't sure I ever would. My heart raced as the phone rang. Once, twice, and then her voice. Hello? Mom, it's me, Grace. There was a pause, maybe a breath. Then she spoke, her voice tight. Grace, why are you calling? I swallowed hard, my throat tight. I just wanted to hear your voice. See, another long pause before she spoke again, but this time her voice was cold, distant. You shouldn't have called. But, Mom, I pleaded, my voice breaking. I miss you. I miss home. When can I come back? Her words were flat, emotionless, as though she were discussing the weather. You can't. That's done. Don't call here anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, please, just... Grace, there's nothing here for you. Goodbye. The line went dead. The silence in the kitchen felt suffocating. My hand trembled as I put the phone back on the charger. The finality in her voice shattered something inside me. She didn't want me. She really didn't want me anymore. Tears welled up in my eyes as I stumbled to my room. I closed the door softly, trying to keep my pain quiet, not wanting to give away how badly I was breaking. I collapsed to the floor, my back against the bed, and let myself cry. The room felt smaller than ever, like the walls were closing in around me. I heard the front door open and close. Aunt Joyce's voice rang out, sharp and demanding. "Grace, you better have finished your chores." "Yes, Aunt Joyce," I called back quickly, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand. I couldn't let her see me weak. Weakness wasn't allowed here. I went to the kitchen to help with dinner, acting like nothing had happened, but inside, I felt different, emptier, more alone. Mom's cold words kept echoing in my mind. Later that night, Aunt Joyce found the call log on her phone. Her face twisted into a scowl, and she stormed into my room, her voice a sharp whisper that cut through the quiet. "So, you took my phone to call your mother? Thought you'd go behind my back?" I froze, feeling the blood drain from my face. I just wanted to hear her voice. Aunt Joyce laughed, a cruel, grating sound. "And what did that get you, huh? She doesn't want you, Grace. Even you can't deny it now." Her words were like ice, and they chilled me to the bone. She grabbed my arm, her grip tight and painful. "No more phone, no more parties. You're here because she doesn't want you. Remember that." The punishment was severe. More chores, stricter rules, and the cold shoulder from Aunt Joyce. Every day felt heavier than the last. It was clear I was nothing but a burden to her, a nuisance she tolerated only because she had to. But a year into my stay, Aunt Joyce finally snapped. "You're packing your bags today, Grace," she announced one morning over breakfast, her voice cold and final. I stared at her, my spoon halfway to my mouth. "What? Why?" "Your mother stopped sending money. No reason to keep you here," she said bluntly, sipping her coffee as if we were discussing something trivial. A cold dread settled in my stomach. "So it happens to me now," she shrugged dismissively. "Not my problem. You can go live with your grandmother. If she won't take you, then it's the orphanage." The thought of going to an orphanage terrified me, but the mention of Grandma sparked a small flicker of hope. I hadn't seen her since I was little and barely remembered her, but surely she wouldn't turn me away. Would she? Packing my bags felt surreal, like it was happening to someone else. I was packing up my life at Aunt Joyce's, each item a reminder of the year I'd lost. Aunt Joyce drove me to Grandma's house, and the car ride was silent except for the hum of the engine. When we arrived, the house was smaller and cozier than Aunt Joyce's big, imposing place. Grandma was waiting at the door, her expression unreadable. "This is Grace, your granddaughter," Aunt Joyce said, not bothering with any pleasantries. "I can't keep her anymore. Linda stopped paying." Grandma looked me over, her eyes sharp but not unkind. "I see. Come in, Grace." Aunt Joyce didn't stay long. With a brief nod, she left, her duty to me discarded as easily as she had gotten rid of me. Inside, Grandma's house was warm and filled with the scent of cinnamon and something sweet baking. It felt welcoming, a stark contrast to Aunt Joyce's cold, sterile environment. "You'll be staying in the guest room. I suppose we'll need to sort out some more permanent arrangements," Grandma said as she led me down the hall. The guest room was small, with a window overlooking the garden. It felt safe, a feeling I hadn't associated with a place in a long time. "Thank you, Grandma," I said quietly, still unsure of my welcome. She nodded. "We're family, Grace. You belong here more than anywhere else." Over the next few weeks, I adjusted to life with Grandma. It was different. She was strict, but there was a kindness to her rules, a gentleness in her reprimands. "You need to do your chores, Grace." "Everyone contributes here," she would remind me, but her tone was patient, not harsh. "Yes, Grandma," I would respond, grateful for her fair approach. Living with Grandma, I began to heal. I found comfort in the quiet routine of our days, the peaceful nights, and the steady rhythm of life that was so different from the chaos with Aunt Joyce. The months passed, and on my 19th birthday, Grandma made a decision that would change everything. Over breakfast, she slid an envelope across the table to me. "Take a look at this, Grace," she said, her voice carrying a mix of seriousness and warmth. I opened the envelope and pulled out some official-looking papers. What's this? It's adoption papers, Grace. I want to adopt you, make things official so no one can ever make you feel unwanted again, she explained, watching me closely for my reaction. I felt a lump in my throat. Really, Grandma? You mean it? Yes, I do. You're not just staying here, Grace. You're my family, and it's time we made that clear to everyone else, too. 2 weeks later, it was done. We went to court, and I officially became Grace Bennett, with a new sense of belonging that I had longed for since Mom sent me away. With Grandma's support, I finally felt like I was home. I began looking forward to the future, and Grandma encouraged me to focus on my studies, especially science, which had always fascinated me. You've got a sharp mind for it, Grace. You could go into medicine. How would you like that? She suggested one day as we were going over some of my school projects. I'd love that, Grandma. I want to help people, I replied, the idea starting to take root. Then it's settled. We'll get you into a good college program. I'll support you every step of the way, she declared with determination. True to her word, Grandma was there for me throughout my high school years. She tutored me in math and science using her old school methods that were strict but effective. You need to understand the basics, Grace. You can't skip the foundation, she'd insist whenever I struggled with complex problems. I graduated with top marks thanks to her unwavering support. Grandma then helped me navigate the daunting college application process. When I got accepted into a medical college with a partial scholarship, she was as proud as if she'd received the acceptance herself. We'll manage the finances. Don't you worry about that, Grandma said when I fretted over the costs. You focus on your studies and become the best doctor you can be. Medical school was tough but fulfilling. I was drawn to oncology, the branch of medicine that deals with cancer. It was hard, both emotionally and intellectually, but it felt right, like I was exactly where I needed to be. I completed my degree, then my internship, and finally my residency, each step a milestone that Grandma celebrated. You're making a real difference, Grace. I'm so proud of you, she'd say, her eyes shiny with pride. By the time I turned 30, I was fully established in my career as an oncologist. My life was busy but fulfilling, filled with long hours at the hospital and the satisfaction of knowing I was making a difference. Through it all, Grandma was my anchor, always there to listen and offer advice on tough days. But life, as it often does, threw another curveball my way. Grandma's health, which had been declining, took a sudden turn for the worse. It was swift and unexpected, the kind of decline that leaves you scrambling to catch your breath. I remember coming home one evening, tired after a particularly tough day at the hospital. Grandma was sitting in her favorite armchair looking out the window. Her voice was weaker when she called me over. Grace, come sit with me for a bit, she said, patting the chair next to her. I sat down and took her hand in mine. It felt fragile, like it could break with too much pressure. I'm not going to beat around the bush, she started, her tone serious. The doctors say there's not much time left. We need to talk about practical things. A lump formed in my throat as Grandma squeezed my hand. Her grip was strong even now, but I could see the weariness in her eyes. No tears now, Grace. We've got things to sort out. You need to be ready. Those words stayed with me as the next few weeks unfolded in a blur of doctor's visits, late nights, and legal paperwork. Grandma made sure everything was in place for me, ensuring there would be no complications with her estate or her wishes. When the end came, it was peaceful just as she had wanted. Grandma passed away in her sleep at home. The silence left by her passing was overwhelming, and the emptiness of the house felt unbearable at times. Planning the funeral was harder than I anticipated. Going through her address book, I called relatives and friends, but the responses were polite, distant, and few offered to come. It hurt, not just because I was losing Grandma, but because the farewell felt so lonely. The chapel was quieter than I expected, the rows of seats barely filled. I stood there, detached, as the priest spoke about life, loss, and legacy. It all felt so surreal, like a chapter I never imagined I'd have to face alone. It wasn't long after the funeral that the family I thought I'd left behind showed up, uninvited and unwelcome. My mother, stepfather, and their 21-year-old daughter arrived unannounced. My mother wasted no time. Grace, you need to share the inheritance your grandmother left you, she demanded, her tone entitled. I stared at them, disbelief and anger mixing in my chest. You left me, remember? 21 years ago, you decided I was too much of a burden. Her face twisted into a sneer. Ungrateful girl. Now you're a rich doctor with an inheritance. You owe us. I laughed bitterly. Grandma adopted me legally. You're nothing to me now. The shock on her face was almost comical. My stepfather leaned in, his voice low and menacing. You're going to regret this, Grace. I slammed the door behind them with satisfying finality. Standing there, my back against the door, I felt a strange mix of relief and renewed determination. A few days later, while I was at work, I received a call from a neighbor. Grace, it looks like your family's at your house again. They've been bringing in furniture. It looks like they're moving in. My stomach twisted. When I arrived home, seeing their car parked in front made me sick. I walked inside to find my mother, stepfather, and stepsister unpacking boxes in the living room, acting as though they had every right to be there. What are you doing? I demanded, my voice shaky but firm. My mother turned around, feigning surprise. Oh, Grace, we're just settling in. After all, this is family property. No, it's not, I said, my heart racing. This is my house, legally left to me by Grandma. You need to leave. My stepfather stepped forward with a smirk. Make us. We're family, and we deserve a part of this house. I could feel the anger rising inside me. You haven't been family for over 21 years. You can't just come here and claim what's mine. My stepsister, who had been silently watching, finally spoke. Come on, Grace, don't be so heartless. We're just asking for what's fair. Fair? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. What's fair about abandoning a child? What's fair about showing up only when you think there's money to be had? They had no answers, just scowls and muttered curses. I'm calling the police, I said, pulling out my phone. My mother tried to stop me. You'll regret this, Grace, she shouted. I've regretted knowing you for years. This is nothing new, I shot back, dialing 911. 911. The police arrived quickly. I explained the situation, showing them the legal documents proving my ownership of the house and Grandma's will. The officers were firm. You need to leave, one told my mother and stepfather. This property doesn't belong to you. If you don't comply, you'll be removed forcibly. My stepfather glared at me, but there was nothing he could do. This isn't over, Grace, he threatened. Oh, but it is, I replied, my voice cold and final. After they left, I walked through the house, through Grandma's house. Each room was filled with memories, each corner a testament to her love and the life she had built for me. I stood in her favorite spot by the window, the sunlight streaming through, and made a promise not just to Grandma, but to myself. I wouldn't let the bitterness of the past dictate my future. I had fought hard to become who I was, and I would continue to fight to honor her legacy, the love she had shown me, and the sacrifices she had made. I was free, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. What do you do when the people who were supposed to love and protect you betray you instead? How do you move forward after years of neglect, rejection, and the weight of your past? For Grace, the road to healing was never easy. After being abandoned by her mother and sent to live with Aunt Joyce, it seemed like the cruelty of the world would never end. The harsh rules, the constant criticism, and the empty feeling of being unwanted made every day a struggle. But despite all the pain, Grace never gave up. She kept moving forward, even when it felt like she had nothing left. She had her own dreams, her own aspirations, and a fire in her heart that refused to be extinguished. When she found refuge with Grandma, things slowly began to change. Grandma's love and support were exactly what Grace needed to start rebuilding herself. With Grandma's unwavering belief in her, Grace went from a lost, hurt girl to a determined young woman who not only survived her circumstances but thrived. She went on to become a doctor, specializing in oncology, and dedicated her life to helping others just as her grandmother had helped her. But just when Grace thought the worst was behind her, her estranged mother and stepfather showed up at her door, demanding what they believed was their due. The anger, The audacity, they thought they could just waltz back into Grace's life because of money. But Grace had learned to stand up for herself. She had the courage to face her past head-on and the strength to protect what was hers, even if it meant confronting the family who had abandoned her. As the police escorted them out, Grace stood tall, a quiet smile on her face. "This is it," she thought. "I'm done being a victim. I'm finally free." What do you think? How would you have handled Grace's situation? Would you stand up to the family who hurt you, or would you try to move on in silence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more stories of strength and resilience.
The blue glow of my laptop screen illuminated my face as I sat cross-legged on my apartment floor at 3 a.m., surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered sticky notes. Another successful code deployment, another step closer to my secret empire. I'm Nina, and I've been living a double life for the past 3 years. My phone buzzed. Dad. Again. Nina, where are those quarterly projections? The board meetings in 4 hours. His voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment. Just finishing them now, I lied, quickly minimizing my startup's dashboard and pulling up the family business spreadsheets. You'll have them in 20 minutes. Make it 10, and don't forget the strategy meeting at 9. Before I could respond, he hung up. Typical Mason Clayton, all business, no pleasantries, even with his own daughter. I rubbed my eyes and switched screens again, sending a quick message to my development team in Singapore. Great work, everyone. Launch is still on track for next month. My other phone, the one my family doesn't know about, lit up with a message from Reed. You can't keep burning the candle at both ends, Nina. Something's gotta give. I smiled despite my exhaustion. Reed had been my confidant since we were kids, the only one who truly understood why I built this secret life. Watch me, I texted back. The sun was rising when I finally crawled into bed, only to be jolted awake 2 hours later by my mother's incoming video call. Darling, you look terrible! Desiree's perfectly made-up face filled my screen. Have you been staying up late again? You know how important family breakfast is to your father. Sorry, Mom. Lost track of time working on those projections. Well, at least you're dedicated to the business, unlike last month when you missed that crucial supplier meeting. Her guilt trip arrows always hit their mark. Tatum had to handle it alone, poor thing. I bit back a retort about Tatum's supposed competence. My sister, the golden child, who'd never questioned our parents' plans for our lives. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I promised, already heading to the shower. The Clayton Textiles building loomed over me as I pulled into the parking lot. My real office, the one where my tech company was revolutionizing supply chain management, was a modern co-working space downtown. This place, with its dated architecture and fading sign, felt like a prison. There's my little sister, Tatum called out as I entered the conference room. Finally decided to grace us with your presence? I forced a smile, taking my seat beside Paxton, our business consultant, who gave me a knowing look. Sometimes I wondered if he suspected something. Now that we're all here, Dad began, let's discuss the upcoming quarter. Nina, your projections? I connected my laptop and presented the numbers I'd prepared in those precious 10 minutes before dawn. Graphs, forecasts, all carefully crafted to show modest improvement while hiding how much I'd actually been helping behind the scenes with my tech expertise. These numbers seem optimistic, Tatum challenged, leaning forward. What's your basis for this growth projection? Before I could respond, my other phone vibrated in my pocket. Harper, my biggest investor, was calling. I ignored it, but my heart raced. Harper never called unless it was important. The Asian market is showing promising signs, I explained, keeping my voice steady. If we implement the new inventory management system I proposed. More technology? Dad interrupted, shaking his head. Nina, we've discussed this. Our business was built on relationships, not computers. I gripped my pen tighter, thinking of my own company's valuation, now approaching 9 figures. All built on the very technology my father dismissed. The meeting dragged on, and I felt my other phone buzzing persistently. Finally, I excused myself to the bathroom and called Harper back. Nina, where have you been? The Series B investors are ready to move. They want to meet tomorrow. My heart stopped. This was it. The opportunity we'd been working toward. I can't just drop everything, I whispered, checking under the stalls for eavesdroppers. My family. Listen to me, Harper cut in. You've built something extraordinary. Are you really going to let your family's outdated expectations hold you back? It's time to choose. As I ended the call, my mother's voice carried down the hallway. Nina, the meeting's waiting. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, straightening my blazer. One life built on lies and family obligation, another built on innovation and freedom. Something had to give. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Reed. Remember who you really are. I took a deep breath and headed back to the conference room. My decision made. Soon, they'd all know exactly who I really was. The next morning, I arrived early at Clayton Textiles, knowing Dad had called an emergency family meeting. The familiar scent of coffee and leather couldn't mask the tension in the air as I pushed open his office door. Right on time, Dad said, not looking up from his papers. Take a seat. Tatum was already there, perfectly poised in her designer suit. Mom sat beside her, both of them wearing identical expressions of superiority that made my skin crawl. I've been thinking about the future of this company, Dad began, finally meeting my eyes. And it's time we discussed succession planning. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Harper about the investors' meeting I was missing. I silenced it without looking. Nina, you've shown remarkable improvement lately. Those projections yesterday. He paused, shuffling papers on his desk. They made me realize you might be ready for more responsibility. Tatum's sharp intake of breath didn't go unnoticed. Dad, we discussed this. I'm the one who's been here consistently. And you'll remain COO. He cut her off. But Nina has a fresh perspective we need. I'm appointing her as Director of Operations, effective immediately. The irony wasn't lost on me. After years of dismissing my ideas, he was finally offering me power, just as I was ready to reveal my separate life. Mason, are you sure? Mom's perfectly manicured hand reached for his arm. Nina's been so distracted lately. I've noticed her dedication, Paxton spoke up from the corner where he'd been quietly observing. I hadn't even noticed him come in. She's brought some innovative solutions to our inventory problems. If they only knew those innovative solutions came from my own company's software. What do you say, Nina? Dad leaned forward, his expression earnest for once. This is your chance to prove yourself to the family. My phone buzzed again. This time I glanced down. Reed. Harper says the investors won't wait. It's now or never. I started, then caught Tatum's glare. Can I have 24 hours to think about it? Dad's face darkened. This isn't a negotiation, Nina. This is your birthright, your responsibility. Responsibility? I couldn't help but laugh. Like when you shut down my tech proposals 3 years ago, or when you said computers would never replace handshakes. Here we go again. Tatum rolled her eyes. Nina's Teenage Rebellion, Part 2. I'm not a teenager anymore, I shot back, standing up. And maybe I have other plans. Other plans? Mom's voice dripped with concern. Darling, what could be more important than family? My phone buzzed a third time. Harper now. Investors are asking questions. Should I tell them you're not coming? Nina, Dad's voice softened dangerously. Think very carefully about your next move. This company has supported our family for 3 generations. Paxton cleared his throat. If I may, Nina's technical expertise could be exactly what Clayton Textiles needs right now. The market is changing. Stay out of this, Tatum snapped. This is family business. I looked at each of them. Dad's stern expectation, Mom's manipulative concern, Tatum's barely concealed hostility. Then I thought about my own company, my team waiting for leadership, the investors ready to take us global. I'll do it, I heard myself say. Excellent! Dad stood up, reaching for the contracts he'd obviously prepared in advance. Sign here and… On one condition, I interrupted. I need 3 days to prepare. Then I want to present my complete vision for the company's future at the board meeting. Tatum scoffed. Since when do you make conditions? Let her speak, Paxton interjected, earning another glare from my sister. Dad studied me carefully. 3 days? What are you planning, Nina? Trust me, I said, meeting his gaze steadily. You'll want to hear what I have to say. As I left the office, Reed was waiting in the lobby. Well? They took the bait, I whispered, hurrying him toward the exit. 3 days to prepare my presentation. Is Harper still at the investors' meeting? Stalling them as we speak, he grinned. Ready to blow their minds? More than ready. I checked my watch. Let's go show those investors what we've built. Then we'll show my family exactly what they've been missing. Nina! Tatum's voice rang out behind us. I turned to see her striding across the lobby. Whatever you're planning, don't you dare embarrass this family. I smiled sweetly. Wouldn't dream of it, sis. See you at the board meeting. As Reed and I stepped into the elevator, I caught Paxton watching us with intense interest. He nodded slightly, and I had a feeling he'd just figured out exactly what was coming. 3 days, Reed muttered as the doors closed. Think that's enough time to prepare your revenge? Trust me, I said, pulling up my company's latest valuation on my phone. I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. The investors' meeting went exactly as planned. I stood in Harper's downtown office afterward, still buzzing from their enthusiasm, when my work phone rang. Dad again. The supplier meeting starts in 20 minutes, he barked. Where are you? I checked my watch. 2 p.m. already. On my way, I said, gathering my things. Traffic's terrible. Just like old times. Harper smirked as I ended the call. How long are you going to keep juggling? 2 more days, I replied, pulling on my jacket. Just need to keep the plates spinning until the board meeting. Nina! Harper's voice turned serious. These investors aren't going to wait forever. They want to announce the deal this week. Perfect timing, then. I headed for the door, but Harper blocked my path. Are you sure you want to do it this way? There are more diplomatic approaches. Diplomatic? I laughed. Like when my father diplomatically told me my tech ideas would ruin the company? Or when Tatum diplomatically suggested I wasn't committed enough? Point taken. Harper stepped aside. Just remember, revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge, I interrupted. It's about finally being honest. I made it to Clayton Textiles just as the supplier meeting was starting. Tatum shot me a disapproving look as I slipped into my seat. As I was saying, our main supplier continued, prices are going up across the board. Without significant changes, we'll have to increase our rates by 30%. Dad's face turned red. 30%? That'll kill us! If I may, I spoke up, pulling out my laptop. I've been working on something that might help. Here we go with the computers again, Tatum muttered. I pulled up a demonstration of my company's software, carefully branded with Clayton Textiles colors for this presentation. This system could optimize our supply chain, reducing costs by at least 40%. The supplier leaned forward, interested. That's impressive. Where did you develop this? I've been working on it in my spare time, I said smoothly, ignoring Reed's text that just popped up. Your spare time? LOL. Implementation would take months, Tatum argued. We need solutions now. Actually, Paxton spoke up from the corner, I've seen similar systems deployed in weeks. Nina, this is remarkably sophisticated for a side project. I met his knowing gaze. He definitely suspected something. We'll discuss this later, Dad cut in. Right now, we need to focus on immediate solutions. My other phone buzzed. A message from my development team about a critical bug fix needed before the board meeting. I had to get out of there. Excuse me, I stood up. Emergency call I have to take. Sit down, Dad commanded. Whatever it is can wait. It really can't. I gathered my things. But I've left detailed notes about potential cost-saving measures on your desk. As I hurried out, I heard Tatum. See what I mean about commitment? I found an empty conference room and pulled out my other laptop. 20 minutes into debugging with my team, The door opened. Paxton. Interesting software you showed in there, he said, closing the door behind him. Reminds me of something I saw at a tech conference last month. Something from a promising startup. I kept typing. Really? What startup? I think you know exactly which one. He sat down across from me. The question is, does your family? I finally looked up. Are you going to tell them? That's not my place. He leaned back. But Nina, they're going to find out soon enough. This company is in trouble, more than they're admitting. Your father's pride won't let him see it, but we need exactly the kind of innovation you're bringing. Just not from me, right? I closed my laptop. Not from the rebellious daughter? You might be surprised. Paxton stood up. Your father assigned me to evaluate the company's future viability. My report is due at the board meeting, the same meeting where you're presenting. My phone buzzed again. Harper. Investors are ready to sign. Need you here ASAP. Look, I said to Paxton, whatever you think you know. I know you're trying to help in your own way. He headed for the door. Just make sure your revenge doesn't burn bridges you might need later. After he left, I called Reed. We might have a problem. Paxton knows. How much? Enough to be dangerous. I started packing up my things. But maybe also enough to be useful. Nina? Reed's voice was cautious. What are you thinking? I smiled, a new plan forming. I'm thinking it's time to adjust our presentation for the board meeting. How quickly can you get me the company's complete financial records? The ones showing how your software secretly saved them millions last year? Already on it. Perfect. I headed for the elevator, ignoring another missed call from Dad. Time to show them exactly how much they need the daughter they've been dismissing. The day before the board meeting, everything started unraveling. I sat in my startup's office, rehearsing my presentation with Harper, when both my phones exploded with notifications. Nina, emergency at the factory! Tatum's voice crackled through one speaker. The new shipment is completely wrong, and the client's threatening to pull their biggest order. Before I could respond, my other phone rang, my lead developer. Boss, the server's down. We need to postpone tomorrow's launch. I pressed my fingers to my temples. How long to fix it? 8 hours minimum. We need you here. Harper watched me with concern as I ended the call. The board meeting's tomorrow. You can't be in 2 places at once. Watch me. I grabbed my laptop. I can handle the server issue remotely while... My mother burst into the office. I froze. How did she even know where to find me? Nina, thank goodness! She looked around the modern space with obvious distaste. What is this place? Never mind. You need to come home right now. Your father's called an emergency family dinner. Mom, I'm in the middle of... No excuses! She grabbed my arm. The Wellington order is about to collapse. 3 generations of business relationships at stake. And here you are, playing with computers in some startup incubator? Harper stepped forward. Mrs. Clayton, Nina is in an important... And who might you be? Mom's eyes narrowed. Harper James. I'm Nina's business associate. I cut in quickly. Mom, give me 5 minutes to wrap up here. 3 minutes? She snapped. I'm waiting in the car. After she left, Harper turned to me. This is getting out of hand. I know. I started packing up, but I just need to hold it together until tomorrow. Your mother showing up here changes things. What if she tells your father? My developer called again. Boss, we're losing clients by the minute. I ended the call and looked at Harper desperately. Can you handle the server crisis? Just until I deal with this family thing? Nina, she warned, you're about to lose everything you've built here. I'll lose everything either way if I don't show up tonight. I headed for the door. Just keep it running for a few hours. The family dinner was exactly the ambush I expected. Dad sat at the head of the table, face like thunder. Tatum paced behind him. The Wellington order represents 30% of our annual revenue. Dad began without preamble. Where were you? Working on a solution, I replied, pulling out my laptop. If we implement the new system... Enough! He slammed his hand on the table. This isn't about computers, Nina. This is about loyalty, about family. Mason, Mom touched his arm. Remember your blood pressure. Blood pressure? Tatum scoffed. What about our blood? Our family name? While I've been trying to save the Wellington account, Nina's been playing entrepreneur in some startup office. My phone buzzed. Harper. Server crisis worse. Need decision now. Nina. Dad's voice softened dangerously. Tomorrow you're presenting to the board, showing them you're ready to help lead this company. But right now, I'm not sure you understand what that means. I understand perfectly, I stood up. And tomorrow, you'll understand too. Sit down. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. You ungrateful child. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Sacrificed? I laughed. You mean like sacrificing my dreams? My ambitions? Everything I wanted to build? The only thing you're building, Tatum spat, is a case for why you don't deserve any part of this company. My phone buzzed again. Read this time. Investors getting nervous about tomorrow. Harper can't hold them much longer. Nina, Dad stood up slowly. Whatever you're planning for tomorrow's presentation, remember this. You're a Clayton. That means something in this industry. You're right, Dad. I gathered my things. It does mean something, and tomorrow you'll find out exactly what. If you walk out that door, Mom called after me, don't bother coming to the board meeting. I turned back one last time. Oh, I'll be there, and I promise you, it's going to be a presentation none of you will ever forget. In my car, I called Harper. How bad is the server situation? Bad, but fixable if you come now. I started the engine. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And Harper, call the investors. Tell them tomorrow's show is going to be even better than they expected. What are you planning? I smiled, thinking of my family's faces around that dinner table. They want to talk about loyalty? Fine. Tomorrow they'll learn what happens when you push away the one person who could have saved everything. Nina, Harper's voice was worried. Don't let anger drive this. It's not anger anymore, I replied, pulling onto the highway. It's justice. The morning of the board meeting, I arrived an hour early to set up. The server crisis had kept me up all night, but adrenaline coursed through my veins as I connected my laptop to the projector. Need help with that? Reed's voice made me jump. What are you doing here? I whispered, glancing at the door. Moral support. He handed me a coffee. Also, Harper sent me. The investors are in the building. What? I nearly dropped my laptop. They're supposed to be at our office. They wanted to see the whole show. He grinned. Can't blame them. It's not every day they get to witness a corporate coup. It's not a coup, I protested. It's… Well. Tatum's voice cut through the room. Secret meetings before the big presentation? She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Behind her, Paxton appeared, carrying his own stack of documents. Just getting set up, I said smoothly. Reed was helping with the tech. Of course he was. Tatum's eyes narrowed. Always hiding behind computers, aren't you, Nina? Just like when we were kids and you'd lock yourself in your room with your precious coding books. Those coding books built something pretty impressive, Reed shot back. Maybe if you'd paid attention. Reed, I warned. Not now. Paxton cleared his throat. The board members are arriving. And Nina, your parents are looking for you. I found them in Dad's office. Mom was adjusting his tie while he reviewed his notes. There you are, Mom said. Darling, about last night. Save it. I held up my hand. Everything that needs to be said will be said in the boardroom. Nina, Dad's voice was unusually quiet. Whatever you're planning, remember that some words can't be taken back. For a moment, I saw genuine concern in his eyes. But then I remembered all the times he'd dismissed my ideas, all the years of manipulation and control. I remember everything, Dad. That's the problem. The boardroom filled quickly. Ancient Mr. Patterson, who'd known my grandfather. Sarah from legal, looking nervous. The Wellington client representatives, there to discuss the troubled order. And in the back, trying to be inconspicuous, Harper and the investors. Before we begin, Dad stood at the head of the table. I want to announce some changes. My daughter Nina has agreed to take on a larger role in our company's future. Polite applause. Tatum's face could have curdled milk. And now, he continued, Nina will present her vision for modernizing our operations. I connected my laptop, heart pounding. On my screen, two presentations waited. The safe one they expected, and the truth they never saw coming. Actually, I said, standing up, I'd like to start with some numbers you need to see. I clicked, and gasps filled the room. On the screen, Clayton Textile's real financial situation appeared. The losses, the outdated systems, the failing contracts. And next to it, the revenue that had been secretly generated by my software over the past year. What is this? Dad demanded. This, I clicked again, revealing my company's logo, is how your daughter's little computer hobby has been keeping your company alive. The room erupted. Tatum jumped to her feet, Mom pressed a hand to her chest, and the board members started whispering furiously. You see, I continued over the chaos, while you were clinging to handshakes and tradition, I built something that's about to revolutionize the entire industry. And those improvements you've been praising in our supply chain? That was all my software, my company. Your company? Dad's face had gone pale. Harper stood up in the back. Perhaps this is a good time to introduce myself properly. Harper James, lead investor in Nina's technology firm, currently valued at, she named a number that made Mr. Patterson drop his coffee cup. Impossible, Tatum sputtered. You've been here working for us. No, I corrected her. I've been saving you. But now it's time to decide. Does Clayton Textiles want to enter the modern age as a partner in my success, or stick to its outdated ways and fade into irrelevance? Partner? Dad's voice was dangerous. You dare to come in here and— Mason, Paxton interrupted, standing up. I think you should look at these numbers carefully. What Nina's built, it's extraordinary, and exactly what this company needs. The Wellington representatives were nodding. Even Sarah looked impressed. So, I faced my father directly. What's it going to be? Partnership or pride? The room fell silent. In that moment, as my father stared at the evidence of his daughter's secret success, I finally felt the weight of 3 years of deception lift from my shoulders. Reed squeezed my hand under the table as Dad slowly sat down, looking at the numbers again. Tell us more, he said finally, his voice rough. Tell us everything. Everything, I smiled, clicking to the next slide. Let's start with how my software saved the Wellington account 3 times this year alone. That's a lie, Tatum shot up again. I handled those crisis situations myself. Did you? I pulled up the data. Or did you follow the suggestions that mysteriously appeared in your inbox? The ones that always seemed to solve the problem? The Wellington representatives leaned forward, interested. Is this true, Tatum? Before she could respond, I continued. My software detected supply chain issues weeks before they became critical. Every time Tatum saved the day, it was because my system had already identified the solution. Enough! Dad's fist hit the table. You've made your point about the technology, but this deception, this secret company, deception! Harper stood again. Nina's company is one of the fastest growing tech startups in the industry. Your daughter is a CEO who's revolutionizing supply chain management while simultaneously keeping your company afloat. Most parents would be proud. Proud? Mom's voice cracked. She betrayed us, our own daughter, working behind our backs. Like you worked behind mine, I interrupted. When you and Dad conspired to shut down my tech proposals? When you manipulated me into staying here instead of taking that Silicon Valley job? We were protecting you, Mom cried. No, Paxton spoke up. You were protecting yourselves, your way of doing business, and it nearly cost you everything. He opened his folder. My audit shows Clayton Textiles would have failed 6 months ago without Nina's invisible interventions. The board members started murmuring again. Mr. Patterson looked like he might faint. Show them the Wellington numbers, Reed suggested quietly. I clicked to the next slide. This is what your order fulfillment looked like before my software. Red lines and failing metrics filled the screen. And this is after. The transformation was dramatic. Remarkable, one of the Wellington reps breathed. We'd actually been considering moving our business elsewhere until these recent improvements. You see, Dad? I faced him directly. Everything you fought against, the technology, the innovation, the change, it's what saved your legacy. I just had to do it in secret because you wouldn't listen. I'm listening now, he said quietly. Are you? I challenged. Because here's what happens next. My investors are ready to take my company public. We're valued at 9 figures and growing. Clayton Textiles can either merge with us as a subsidiary, implementing our technology officially, or what? Tatum demanded. Or we pull our software out completely, see how well you do without it. The room erupted again. Board members shouting, Mom nearly fainting, Tatum turning purple with rage. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. This is your family. Watch me. I pulled up the kill switch screen on my laptop. One click, and everything goes back to your old systems. Think you can handle that Wellington order without my tech? The Wellington reps shifted uncomfortably. Mason, Paxton interjected. This is actually a tremendous opportunity. Nina's offering a way to modernize the company while keeping it in the family. Just not in the way we expected. Dad stood up slowly, all eyes on him. He walked to the window, staring out at the city where his father had built this company from nothing. All those late nights, he said finally, the missed family dinners, the emergency calls. You weren't being irresponsible. No, I said softly. I was building something important, something that could save both our legacies. He turned back to face me. And now you're giving us an ultimatum. I'm giving you a choice, I corrected. The same choice you never gave me. Harper stepped forward with a contract. The terms are fair, more than fair, actually. Clayton Textiles retains its name and core business while gaining access to cutting-edge technology and a significant stake in a rapidly growing tech company. Dad took the contract, studying it. The room held its breath. Nina, he said finally, you've turned into quite the businesswoman. I learned from the best, I replied, even if I had to do it my own way. He picked up a pen, then paused. One condition. What's that? You explain to me, in detail, exactly how you pulled this off. Because clearly, he actually smiled slightly. I have a lot to learn from my daughter. I glanced at Tatum, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon, then at Mom, who was dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Deal, I said, extending my hand. Dad looked at my offered handshake, then at the contract, then back at me. No, he said, putting down the pen. Not with a handshake this time. My heart sank. This time, he continued, walking around the table, I think my daughter deserves a hug. The next morning, I sat in my father's office, our office now, surrounded by boxes of financial records. The merger paperwork was spread across the desk, waiting for final signatures. So this line of code here, Dad pointed at my laptop screen, that's what caught the shipping errors? Before they even happened, I explained. The AI predicts problems based on historical data. Fascinating. He actually looked impressed. And you built all this yourself? She had help, Reed said, walking in with coffee, though she'll never admit it. Reed, Dad acknowledged him with a nod. I suppose I owe you an apology, too. All those times I thought you were a bad influence. I was, Reed grinned. Just not in the way you thought. The door burst open. Tatum stormed in, waving papers. This is ridiculous. Have you seen these merger terms? Nina gets control of both companies' technology decisions. Of course she does. Harper followed her in. She's the one who built the technology. But I'm the COO, Tatum protested. You can't just… Actually, Dad interrupted, we can, and we will. Sit down, Tatum. It's time we had a family meeting. A real one. Mom appeared in the doorway, looking uncertain. Mason, are you sure about this? More sure than I've been about anything in years. He gestured for everyone to sit. Nina, show them what you showed me this morning. I pulled up our real-time analytics dashboard. This is Clayton Textiles right now. Every order, every shipment, every potential problem tracked and solved automatically. But where's the personal touch? Mom asked. The relationships your father built? Right here. I clicked to another screen. The software doesn't replace relationships, it strengthens them. Watch this. I demonstrated how the system had flagged a potential issue with a long-time customer and automatically suggested solutions based on their 30-year history with us. That's actually impressive, Tatum admitted reluctantly. It gets better, Reed added. Show them the expansion projections. I pulled up the growth forecast. Even Harper let out a low whistle. She hadn't seen these numbers yet. With the merger, I explained, we can scale both companies simultaneously. Clayton Textiles becomes the perfect test case for my software, and the software makes Clayton Textiles an industry leader in modernization. But what about my role? Tatum asked, quieter now. You know this industry better than anyone, I said. I need that knowledge. The software can predict problems, but it takes human expertise to implement solutions. That's where you come in. You mean, work together? Shocking concept, isn't it? Reed muttered. Harper elbowed him. Listen, Dad stood up. I made a mistake years ago. I was so focused on preserving the past that I couldn't see the future sitting right in front of me. Nina, I'm sorry. Dad, I started, but he held up his hand. Let me finish. You didn't just build a successful company. You saved ours while we were too stubborn to save ourselves. That kind of vision, that's what Clayton Textiles was built on. Your grandfather would have been proud. Mom dabbed at her eyes. But all the sneaking around, the secrets. Would you have listened if I'd been honest? I asked. Really listened? The silence answered for them. Well, Paxton appeared in the doorway. The board has officially approved the merger. All we need now are the family signatures. I picked up a pen and held it out to Tatum. Partners? She stared at the pen for a long moment. You really think we can work together, after everything? I think we can be stronger together than we ever were apart. I smiled. Besides, someone needs to keep me from getting too caught up in the code. She actually laughed at that, taking the pen. Fine, partners. But I want to learn how the software works. Deal. I turned to Mom. What about you? She looked at Dad, then back at me. Will you at least come to family dinner once a week? No laptops allowed? As long as you promise to let me teach you how to video chat properly. It's not my fault those things are so complicated. But she was smiling as she signed. Dad took the pen last. Nina, your grandfather built this company on a handshake and a dream. You've built something even bigger on code and courage. I couldn't be prouder to sign this. As he wrote his name, Harper cleared her throat. Not to break up the family moment, but the press is waiting downstairs. They want to meet the tech prodigy who's revolutionizing the textile industry. Ready to go public? Reed asked. In every sense of the word? I looked around at my family, really looked at them. Dad, finally seeing me clearly. Mom, trying to hide her pride. Tatum, already studying the software manual. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It was something better. Actually, I said, I think we should do this together, as a family. Together, Dad agreed, putting his arm around me. It's about time. The press conference ended with thunderous applause. As cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, I felt Dad's steady hand on my shoulder. And that's how you handle the media, he whispered, guiding me off the stage. Though I have to admit, you didn't need much coaching. She's a natural, Harper called from the sidelines. The investors are ecstatic. Stock's already up 12%. In the green room, Tatum was glued to her tablet, watching our numbers climb. This is insane. We've gotten more orders in the past hour than we usually get in a month. Can the software handle it? Mom asked, trying to sound casual while obviously still struggling with the technical aspects. Watch this, I said, pulling up the dashboard on the big screen. See how it's already adjusting production schedules, reallocating resources. In English, please, Mom sighed. It means yes, Reed translated, making everyone laugh. Paxton knocked on the door. The Wellington representatives are here. They want to discuss expanding their contract. Send them in, Dad started, but I held up my hand. Actually, Tatum should handle this one. She knows their account better than anyone. Tatum looked up, surprised. Really? Really. The software can crunch the numbers, but you know the people. That's what makes this work. She straightened her jacket, a hint of her old confidence returning. Well, I did handle their account for 5 years. Go, I nudged her. Show them what the new Clayton Textiles can do. As she left with Paxton, Dad turned to me. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. This only works if we all play to our strengths. Speaking of strengths, Harper interrupted, we should discuss the Tokyo expansion. Their market is perfect for... No business talk, Mom declared. We're having a family dinner tonight. A proper one, Nina promised. Did I? I grinned. You did, Reed confirmed. And I'm invited this time. Your mom specifically said so. Only because you promised to teach me how to use that cloud thing, Mom said primly. It's just called the cloud, Mom. Not that cloud thing. Whatever it's called, I want to learn. If my daughters can run a tech empire, surely I can figure out how to save a file. Dad checked his phone. Tatum just closed the Wellington deal. They're tripling their order. The software can handle it, I assured him. I know it can. He put his phone away. Because my daughter built it. Harper cleared her throat. Not to interrupt the family moment, but there's one more thing we need to discuss. The Silicon Valley office? Can wait until tomorrow, I finished. Mom's right. Family dinner first. See, in that case, Reed stood up. I'll go help Tatum wrap up with Wellington. See you at dinner? Actually, Mom linked her arm through his. Why don't you help me set up that cloud thing first? Nina's always too busy to explain it properly. As they left, Dad turned to me. You know, I kept all your old coding books, the ones from when you were a teenager. Found them in the attic last night. You kept them? Of course I did. Even when I was fighting against your dreams, part of me knew you were meant for something bigger than what I had planned. Dad, let me finish. I spent so many years trying to preserve what my father built that I almost destroyed my daughter's future. Can you forgive me for that? I hugged him, breathing in the familiar scent of his aftershave. Already have. Good. He pulled back, eyes suspiciously bright. Because I'm going to need a lot of help understanding all this tech stuff, starting with why my phone keeps telling me I'm out of cloud storage. Not you too, I groaned. Between you and Mom. Hey, if this old dog is going to learn new tricks, he's learning them from the best. Harper poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Tatum's looking for you both. Something about Mom trying to upload her entire photo collection to a group chat? Oh, God, I laughed. We better go save the cloud from my mother. Nina, Dad caught my arm as we headed out. You did good, kid. Really good. We did good, I corrected him. All of us. Together. As we walked toward the conference room, I could hear Mom arguing with Reed about storage limits, Tatum excitedly explaining the new contract terms to Paxton, and the distant sound of reporters still buzzing about the merger. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It wasn't even the success I'd imagined. It was better. It was family. Messy, complicated, and finally real. Ready to face the future? Dad asked. I smiled, thinking of all the battles ahead. Teaching Mom technology, merging our companies, expanding globally. But this time, we'd face them as a family. Ready, I said. Let's go save the cloud.
The call came at 3 a.m., jolting me from a dreamless sleep. My father's voice cracked with desperation, something I'd never heard from him before. Lillian, we need your help. I'm Lillian, and for the past decade, my family has treated me like the black sheep who threw away her potential by choosing to work with cars instead of pursuing a respectable career. Now here was my father, the same man who once told me I was embarrassing the family name by playing mechanic, begging for my assistance. What happened? I asked, already knowing this had something to do with my perfect brother Bentley. It's complicated, Dad stammered. Can you come over? First thing in the morning? I glanced at the framed photo on my nightstand. Me at 18, covered in grease, standing proudly next to my first restored Mustang. Mom had refused to display it in their house, calling it unladylike. I have a business to run, I replied, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. 3 businesses, actually. Remember those grease monkey shops you were so ashamed of? Please, sweetheart. Your mother, she's not handling this well. I sat up, running my fingers through my hair. I'll be there at 7, before my first shift starts. The drive to my parents' mansion in my restored '69 Chevelle felt surreal. I'd bought this car as a wreck for $500 5 years ago. Now it was worth north of 60 grand. Not that my family would ever appreciate that kind of transformation. Zuriel called while I was en route. Boss lady, you're not going to believe what I just heard through the grapevine about Bentley's startup. Save it, I cut in. I'm heading to my parents now. Pretty sure I'm about to hear the whole story. Want backup? I can be there in 20. Thanks, Z, but I need to handle this solo. The gates to the estate opened automatically. At least they hadn't cut power to those yet. Mom was waiting at the door in her silk robe, her perfectly maintained facade cracking around the edges. Lillian? She said stiffly. You came. You sound surprised. I stepped past her into the marble foyer, my work boots echoing against the floor. Where's the golden child? Your brother is in the study with your father. Her voice wavered. Try to be kind. I almost laughed. Like you all were to me? The study door was open. Dad sat behind his massive desk, looking 10 years older than when I'd last seen him at Christmas. Bentley paced by the window, still wearing yesterday's rumpled suit. Well? I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. I've got a staff meeting at 8, so let's make this quick. Your brother's company, Dad began. Failed spectacularly? I finished. Yeah, I figured. The tech bubble's been bursting for months. Bentley whirled around. You don't know anything about it. You fix cars for a living. I run 3 successful businesses that fix cars, I corrected him. And unlike you, I actually understand profit margins and sustainable growth. Enough. Dad slammed his hand on the desk. Lillian, please, this isn't just about Bentley's company. He invested everything. Our retirement fund, the house equity. My stomach dropped. How much? All of it, Bentley whispered. And then some. The room spun slightly. I'd expected bad, but this? You let him gamble away your entire fortune? After all that talk about responsible business practices? Mom appeared behind me, wringing her hands. We trusted him. He has an MBA from Harvard. Yes, you've only mentioned it about 1,000 times. I turned back to Dad. So what exactly do you want from your disappointment daughter? The one you said would never amount to anything? The silence was deafening. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice barely audible. We need money, Lillian. A loan. Just until we can sort this out. I pulled out my phone, checking the time. 7:23 a.m. In 37 minutes, I'd be starting another productive day at my embarrassing business, while my Harvard-educated brother had just destroyed our family's legacy. I'll think about it, I said, already heading for the door. But first, I want to hear exactly how this happened. Every detail. And Bentley? I paused, meeting his bloodshot eyes. You might want to change out of that suit. Where you're going, it'll just get in the way. I spent the morning at my flagship garage trying to focus on work while my phone buzzed with desperate texts from my family. Casey, my head mechanic, noticed something was off when I fumbled a basic oil change. Earth to Lillian, he said, sliding out from under a Porsche. That's the 3rd time you've checked the dipstick. What's going on? I wiped my hands on my coveralls. Remember how I always said my brother would crash and burn someday? Yeah? Well, he just took the whole family fortune down with him. Casey whistled low. Damn. That's why your phone's been blowing up? Yep. I showed him the latest message from Mom. Please come back. We need to discuss options. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, Zuriel burst through the office door. Holy shit, Lil. I just got the full scoop on Bentley's mess. He didn't just lose the family money. He borrowed against their house, took out high-interest loans, even emptied your mom's inheritance from your grandmother. My hands started shaking. How do you know all this? My cousin works at the bank. Bentley's been there every day this week, trying to get more loans. They're about to foreclose on the house. I grabbed my keys. Casey, can you handle things here? Go. He nodded. Just don't let them manipulate you, okay? The mansion looked different in the afternoon light, less imposing, more vulnerable. This time, Bentley opened the door, his Harvard swagger replaced by dark circles under his eyes. They're in the living room, he mumbled, going through the paperwork. I found my parents surrounded by stacks of documents, Mom openly crying as Dad highlighted numbers in red. Show me everything, I demanded, holding out my hand. Dad passed me a folder. It's bad, Lillian. Bad was an understatement. Bentley had burned through millions in just 18 months. The tech startup, some ridiculous app for trading digital art, had never even launched properly. The house goes up for auction next month, Mom whispered. We'll have nowhere to go. You could have stopped him, I said, my voice tight. All those times I came to you for startup capital for my first garage, you said I was irresponsible, that I needed a real business plan, but you just handed everything over to him? He had spreadsheets, Dad defended weakly. Projections. I had projections too, but you wouldn't even look at them because they involve motor oil instead of microchips. Bentley stepped forward. Look, I know I messed up. Messed up? I laughed harshly. You destroyed everything our family built over 3 generations. And for what? So you could play tech entrepreneur? I was trying to innovate. No, you were trying to get rich quick. Meanwhile, I built my business the hard way. One garage at a time, one satisfied customer at a time. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Please, Lillian, we know you've done well for yourself. If you could just help us with the mortgage, why should I? The words came out before I could stop them. When I needed help, you all turned your backs on me, called my dream worthless. We were wrong, Dad said quietly. Is that what you want to hear? We were wrong about you, and we were wrong about Bentley. I stood up, pacing the room. Through the window, I could see my Chevelle parked next to Bentley's leased Tesla, which would probably be repossessed any day now. The house is worth what? $4 million? I asked. 4.2, Dad confirmed. But with the loans against it. And the total debt? Mom's hands trembled as she checked a spreadsheet. Just over $6 million. I let out a low whistle. That's a lot of oil changes. We know it's too much to ask, Dad started, but I cut him off. Actually, it's not. I pulled out my phone, checking my business accounts. I could cover it, but I won't, not without conditions. The room went silent. Even Bentley stopped his nervous pacing. What conditions? Mom asked. I looked each of them in the eye, savoring the moment. First, I get full control of all family assets. What's left of them anyway. Second, you all work for me until the debt is paid off. Work at your garages? Bentley looked horrified. Where else? Unless you've got another Harvard degree hiding somewhere that's actually worth something? Mom started to protest, but Dad held up his hand. What exactly would this arrangement entail? I smiled, already picturing Bentley in coveralls. Come to my office tomorrow morning, all of you. I'll have the contracts ready. As I walked out, I heard Mom burst into fresh tears. Part of me felt guilty, but a bigger part remembered all the tears I'd shed alone in my first tiny garage, determined to prove them wrong. Now they'd learn exactly what their grease monkey daughter was capable of. My office wasn't what they expected. Located in a renovated industrial building, it balanced modern luxury with industrial chic. Exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a restored vintage Harley-Davidson displayed in the corner. Their faces as they walked in said it all. "This is yours?" Mom touched the Italian leather couch hesitantly. "All of it." I gestured for them to sit, including the building. Zuriel arrived with coffee. Premium roast, not the instant stuff Mom used to tell me was good enough for a mechanic. She placed the cups on my glass desk with a knowing smirk. "The contracts are ready," Zuriel announced. "Need anything else, boss?" "Just make sure we're not disturbed." I waited until she left before continuing. "So, let's talk about your new jobs." Bentley shifted uncomfortably in his designer suit. "I still think there must be other options." "There aren't." I pulled out 4 folders. "Unless you've got $6 million hidden somewhere?" Dad cleared his throat. "What exactly will we be doing?" "Mom, you'll handle customer service at our Riverside location. Dad, you'll manage parts inventory at downtown. And Bentley..." I smiled. "You're starting in the pit with Jillian." "The pit?" Mom looked confused. "Oil changes, tire rotations, basic maintenance. Where every good mechanic starts." Bentley jumped up. "This is ridiculous. I have an MBA." "And look how far that got you." I leaned back in my chair. "Sit down, Bentley. Unless you'd prefer explaining to your country club friends why your Tesla got repossessed." He sat. "The contracts are simple," I continued. "You work for me for 3 years minimum. Standard 40-hour weeks, industry standard pay. Everything goes toward paying off your debt. I'll handle the house payments and keep the creditors away. But one wrong move, one attempt to undermine me, and the deal's off." 3 years? Mom whispered. "Would you prefer bankruptcy? Public auctions? Your faces in the financial papers?" Dad picked up his contract, scanning the terms. "And after 3 years, if you've proven yourselves valuable employees, we can discuss more permanent arrangements." I passed them each a pen. "Your choice." The silence stretched as they read. Finally, Dad signed first. Mom followed, her signature shakier than usual. Bentley stared at his contract like it might bite him. "This is karma, isn't it?" he muttered. "No, brother dear, this is business." I tapped the paper. "Sign." As he scrawled his signature, Casey knocked and entered. "Sorry to interrupt, but we've got that Maserati waiting for inspection." "Perfect timing," I said. "Casey, meet your new apprentice. Bentley needs his coveralls fitted." Casey's eyes widened with recognition. "This is your brother? The Harvard guy?" "Former Harvard guy," I corrected. "Current trainee mechanic. Show him the ropes, but don't go easy on him." "Wait, now?" Bentley protested. "I'm not dressed for..." "Your shift started 5 minutes ago." I pointed to the door. "Casey will show you where to change." After they left, Mom dabbed at her eyes again. "Lillian, please. He's not cut out for manual labor." Like I wasn't cut out for business? I pulled up my garage's financial reports on my desktop screen. "See these numbers? This is what not cut out for it looks like. 3 profitable locations, 47 employees, and contracts with every luxury car dealership in the city." "We didn't know," Dad said softly, "about any of this." "You never asked." I stood up. "Your shifts start tomorrow. I suggest you both get some rest. Manual labor takes some getting used to." They left looking shell-shocked, but I wasn't done. I headed down to the garage floor where Casey had Bentley struggling into steel-toed boots. "Having fun?" I asked. Bentley glared up from the bench. "This is humiliation and you know it. No, this is honest work. Something you've never tried." I picked up a basic wrench. "You know what this is?" "Of course I know what a wrench is." "Good, because by the end of today, you'll need to know the name and function of every tool in that box. Jillian will test you." On cue, Jillian rolled out from under a car nearby. "Looking forward to it, boss." I left Bentley gaping at his new supervisor, a tattooed woman 10 years his junior, and headed back upstairs. Through my office window, I watched Mom and Dad climb into their Mercedes, probably one of the last times they'd drive it. My phone buzzed with a text from Casey. "Your brother just asked if we have a valet for the customer cars." I smiled, remembering all the times they'd laughed at my career choice. "Let him figure it out," I typed back. "The hard way." Just like I had to. 1 week into their new jobs, and the complaints were already rolling in. I sat in my office reviewing the incident reports with Zuriel. "Your mother made 3 customers cry yesterday," Zuriel said, shuffling through papers. "Apparently, she told Mrs. Anderson her Ferrari was new money gauche and suggested she try a Lexus instead." I rubbed my temples. "And Bentley?" "Failed his tool test for the 3rd time. Jillian says he keeps calling her sweetheart and trying to explain business concepts to her while she's working." A knock interrupted us. Casey entered, looking exhausted. "Your brother just tried to delegate his oil changes to the intern. Again." "Where is he now?" "Hiding in the break room, complaining about his manicure being ruined." I stood up. "Time for a family meeting." I found them all in the break room. Mom still in her pressed pantsuit despite the dress code, Dad actually trying in his new uniform, and Bentley sulking in the corner with grease-stained hands. "Sit down," I ordered. "We need to talk about your performance reviews." "Performance reviews?" Mom looked offended. "We've only been here a week, and it's been a disaster." I pulled out the reports. "Mom, you can't insult customers based on their car choices." "Dad, inventory counts need to be exact, not approximately correct." "And Bentley," I turned to my brother, "Jillian is your supervisor. Her gender and age are irrelevant." "She's barely qualified to," Bentley started. "She's been with me for 3 years and can rebuild a transmission blindfolded. You can barely change oil without whining." Dad raised his hand like a schoolboy. "I've been trying, Lillian." "Really?" "I know, Dad. That's why you're getting transferred to the front desk at Riverside. Mom's moving to inventory, where she'll have minimal customer contact." "And me?" Bentley asked. "You're staying right where you are until you learn some humility. And Jillian's getting a bonus for putting up with you." The door opened and a customer walked in, one of our regulars with a classic Mustang collection. His eyes widened at the scene. "Mr. Roberts," I smiled. "How's that 65 running?" "Like a dream, thanks to you." He glanced at my family. "Are these your new hires?" "My family, actually. They're learning the business." Bentley straightened up. "I'm her brother, Harvard MBA. I'm sure we could discuss some investment opportunities." "Bentley," I snapped. "Break room, now." After Mr. Roberts left, I rounded on my brother. "You do not solicit our customers, ever. You lost that privilege when you burned through millions of their colleagues' money." "I'm trying to help." "No, you're trying to avoid actual work, again." I pulled out my phone. "Jillian, could you come to the break room?" She appeared moments later, coveralls pristine despite having just finished a brake job. "What's up, boss?" "Give me an honest assessment of Bentley's progress." She crossed her arms. "He refuses to get his hands dirty, won't listen to instructions, and spent 2 hours yesterday trying to convince me that we should disrupt the automotive industry with some app idea." Mom stood up. "This isn't fair, Lillian. We're trying our best." "Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're all still acting like you're too good for this work. My work. We're not used to this." Dad gestured vaguely. "Well, get used to it, fast. Because starting tomorrow, things change." I turned to Jillian. "Take Bentley through the certification checklist again. If he fails, he starts cleaning bathrooms." "You wouldn't dare." Bentley paled. "Try me, Mom, Dad. Your new assignments start in an hour. And lose the designer clothes. You're not impressing anyone here." As they filed out, Casey appeared with another update. "Your brother's Tesla just got towed from the parking lot." "Good." I checked my watch. "Right on schedule." "You knew?" "I called the repo company myself." I watched through the window as Bentley discovered his empty parking spot. "He needs to learn there are consequences." "You're enjoying this a little too much." Casey grinned. "Maybe." I turned back to my paperwork. but they're learning more in a week than they have in years. Speaking of which, I picked up my phone again. Time to call the realtor about their house. I think it's ready for some renovations. Renovations? Well, if they're going to live in it under my ownership, it needs a proper garage, don't you think? Casey laughed. You're evil. No, I smiled, watching Bentley throw a tantrum in the parking lot. I'm just giving them the education they never gave me. The accident happened 3 weeks into their employment. I was in a meeting when Zuriel burst into my office, face pale. Bentley just dropped a Mercedes on the lift, she said breathlessly, with someone under it. I ran to the garage floor, heart pounding. Jillian was being helped up by Casey, shaken but miraculously unharmed. The Mercedes lay at an angle, its side panel crushed. What happened? I demanded. Your brother decided he didn't need a spotter to operate the lift, Casey explained, his voice tight with anger. Jillian barely rolled out in time. Bentley stood to the side, still holding the lift controls. I've watched it done 100 times. I thought. You thought? I exploded. You could have killed someone. Where's the customer? In the waiting room, Jillian said, rubbing her shoulder. He saw everything. I found the Mercedes owner pacing by the coffee machine. One look at his face told me this wasn't going to be pretty. Sir, I cannot apologize enough. That idiot could have killed your mechanic, he shouted. And my car. Do you know how rare that model is? I do, sir. I promise we'll make this right. Make it right? I'm calling my lawyer. Mom appeared from the inventory room, drawn by the commotion. Perhaps I could offer you some coffee while we... Mom, not now. I turned back to the customer. Sir, please come to my office. We'll handle this professionally. 2 hours and one very expensive settlement later, I called a mandatory staff meeting. My family sat in the front row, Bentley still trying to defend himself. It was an honest mistake. Anyone could have... Shut up. I rarely raised my voice, but this was it. This isn't about a mistake. This is about you thinking rules don't apply to you. Again. I was trying to be efficient. You were trying to show off. Jillian shot back. I told you 3 times to wait for a spotter. I held up my hand for silence. Bentley, you're suspended for 2 weeks, without pay. What? But the debt? Will take longer to pay off. Consider it motivation to follow safety protocols when you return. I turned to my parents. And you too. Why wasn't anyone supervising him? Mom bristled. We were doing our jobs as you demanded. Your jobs include watching out for each other. Or did you think your precious son was above basic safety training? Dad at least had the decency to look ashamed. We should have been more vigilant. Yes, you should have. I pulled out some papers. So here's what's going to happen. Mom, Dad, you're both taking safety certification courses. Full program, no shortcuts. But that's entry-level training, Mom protested. Exactly. Bentley, when you return, you start from scratch. Complete recertification with direct supervision. One more mistake like this, and you're out. Debt or no debt. You can't do this to me. Bentley stood up. I'm your brother. No, right now you're my employee. A dangerous one. I stepped closer. And if you ever put one of my people at risk again, being unemployed will be the least of your worries. The room fell silent. Casey cleared his throat. What about the Mercedes? Insurance will cover it, but our premiums will skyrocket. I glared at Bentley. Coming out of your wages, of course. This is ridiculous. Bentley grabbed his jacket. I'm calling my lawyer. Your lawyer dropped you weeks ago, I reminded him. Along with your credit cards, car, and dignity. Want to try for your work boots too? He deflated visibly, slumping back into his chair. Meeting dismissed, I announced. Except for you 3. We're not done. After everyone left, I faced my family. I've been too lenient. That changes now. Lenient? Mom scoffed. You've been torturing us. No, I've been teaching you. Clearly not well enough. I pulled up the garage's security footage. Watch this. Watch how close Bentley came to killing someone today because he couldn't follow simple instructions. They watched in silence as the Mercedes tilted dangerously on screen, Jillian rolling away seconds before disaster. This is what happens when you think you're above the rules, I said quietly. Sound familiar, Bentley? Like a certain investment scheme? He wouldn't meet my eyes. From now on, you all report directly to Casey. No shortcuts, no special treatment, no family passes. I headed for the door. And Bentley? Clean out that Mercedes before you leave. By hand. Maybe some manual labor will help you remember why we have safety protocols. Lillian, Dad called as I reached the door. We are trying, you know. I paused, remembering all the times I'd said those same words to them, only to be dismissed. Try harder, I said, and left them sitting there, surrounded by the consequences of their actions. The first sign something was wrong came when our online reviews started tanking. 1-star ratings flooded in, all with similar complaints. Wrong parts installed, overcharged services, rude staff. I knew immediately who was behind it. Look at this, Zuriel said, showing me her tablet. Someone's been posting on local business forums about our fraudulent practices. The writing style seems familiar. I scrolled through the posts. Harvard Business School level vocabulary with prep school entitlement? Has to be Bentley. Want me to trace the IP? No need. I picked up my phone. Casey, where's my brother right now? Computers showing him logged into Terminal 3 in the back office. Said he was studying safety manuals. Check his screen. A minute later, Casey's voice crackled back. Caught him red-handed. He's writing another review as we speak. I stormed down to the back office. Bentley scrambled to close his laptop, but not fast enough. Having fun? I asked, crossing my arms. I was just trying to destroy my business? Again? I grabbed his laptop. Let's see. Unprofessional management more interested in personal vendettas than customer service. Creative. You're running our family name into the ground. No, you did that when you lost $6 million. I'm trying to save it. Mom appeared in the doorway. What's going on? Your son is sabotaging the business that's keeping you all out of bankruptcy. I turned the laptop to show her. Recognize his writing style? She read the screen, face falling. Bentley, how could you? How could I? How could she? He gestured at me wildly. She's humiliating us, making us work like common laborers. As opposed to what? I shot back. White-collar criminals? That's enough. Dad's voice boomed from behind Mom. Both of you. No, it's not enough. I pulled up the review statistics. These posts have already cost us 3 major clients. That's thousands in lost revenue. Revenue that was supposed to pay off your debt. Bentley stood up. Maybe if you'd given me a management position instead of sticking me in the pit. You lost that privilege when you nearly killed Jillian. I slammed the laptop shut. And now this? You're actively trying to destroy the only thing keeping our family afloat? Lillian, Mom stepped forward. Perhaps if we all just took a break? A break? Sure. How about a permanent one? I pulled out my phone. I can call the creditors right now. Let them know you're violating the terms of our agreement. You wouldn't, Dad whispered. Try me. I started dialing. 1 call, and you lose everything. Again. But this time I won't be here to save you. Wait. Mom grabbed my arm. Please, we'll handle this. Handle it? Like you handled his tech startup? His gambling, his... I'm sorry. The words burst from Mom like a dam breaking. Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry we didn't believe in you. I'm sorry we favored him. I'm sorry for everything. The office went silent. In 15 years, I'd never heard my mother apologize for anything. Mom, Bentley started. No. She turned on him. You've done enough damage. First our savings, now this? She straightened her work uniform. Lillian, what do you want us to do? I studied her face, looking for any sign of manipulation. Found none. First, Bentley writes retractions for every fake review. Then he spends the next month detailing cars, by hand, no power tools. I looked at my brother. Unless you'd prefer explaining to a judge why you violated our agreement? He slumped in his chair. Fine. And you two? I addressed my parents. Start acting like actual employees. No more covering for him, no more excuses. Dad nodded slowly. We understand. Do you? Because one more incident like this and the deal's off. I mean it. As they filed out, Casey appeared with a stack of paperwork. Customer satisfaction surveys from this week. Thought you might want to see these. I flipped through them. Despite Bentley's sabotage attempts, our regular customers had left glowing reviews. Real ones. Your mom's actually getting better at inventory, Casey added. And your dad. He's got a knack for calming down angry customers. And Bentley? Still a disaster, but... Casey hesitated. Your mother's apology seemed genuine. I sank into my chair, suddenly exhausted. Maybe, or maybe she's just finally realized they have no other options. People can change, you know. Yeah. I watched through the window as Bentley began writing his retractions, Mom supervising nearby. But first, they have to want to. The annual luxury car show should have been my moment of triumph. Instead, I stood frozen as Bentley pitched his revolutionary new business model to my biggest client. Think about it, sir, he was saying. Why waste time with traditional repairs when we could create an app-based subscription service? Mr. Peterson, owner of the city's largest luxury car dealership, looked bemused. Interesting proposal. And you're part of Lillian's team? Actually, I'm the brains behind the operation. My sister just handles the mechanical aspects. I'd heard enough. Mr. Peterson, I see you've met my employee. Bentley's smile faltered. Lillian, I was just explaining how he violated his contract. Again. I turned to Mr. Peterson. I apologize for this interruption. Would you excuse us? Once out of earshot, I rounded on my brother. What the hell are you doing? Making things better. That subscription model could revolutionize. Like your last revolutionary idea? The one that bankrupted our family? This is different. I've learned from my mistakes. Have you? I gestured around the showroom. Because it looks like you're still trying to take shortcuts. Still trying to prove you're better than just a mechanic. At least I'm trying to improve things. You're stuck in the past with your wrenches and oil changes. Our argument was drawing attention. Casey appeared at my elbow. Boss, maybe we should take this somewhere private. No need. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the lawyers. The deal's off. You can't. Mom rushed over, Dad close behind. Please, Lillian, he didn't mean to try stealing my clients? Again? After the review incident? I started dialing. I warned you what would happen. Wait. Bentley grabbed my arm. Just wait. Something in his voice made me pause. I'm scared, okay? His voice cracked. I'm terrified of being nothing but a failure. Of being just another mechanic. Just another mechanic? Jillian stepped forward, wiping grease from her hands. You mean like me? The one who's been teaching you everything you know? Or me, Casey added. The just a mechanic who runs 3 service departments? Or me, I finished quietly. The mechanic who saved your ass when your brilliant business plans fell apart? Bentley's shoulders slumped. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I pocketed my phone. You still think you're better than us. That's why you can't learn, can't improve, can't succeed. I don't know how to be anything else, he whispered. Then learn. I pointed to where Mr. Peterson was examining a Ferrari. See him? He respects us because we deliver results, not promises. We fix things, not break them. Dad cleared his throat. She's right, son. I've learned more about real business in 3 months here than in 30 years of corporate life. And I've learned about real customer service, Mom added. not just social climbing disguised as networking. So what now? Bentley asked. Now? I looked around at my empire. The gleaming cars, the skilled staff, the reputation I'd built. Now you make a choice. Either commit to actually learning this business or walk away. But if you walk alone. No more family bailouts. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if I can't do it? Can't or won't? I nodded toward Jillian. Because she thinks you could be decent at this if you check your ego. Really? He looked surprised. Jillian shrugged. You've got good hands when you actually try. And you understand luxury cars better than most beginners. The choice is yours, I said. But choose now, in front of everyone. Bentley looked around. At our parents, at the staff watching, at Mr. Peterson in the distance. Finally, he pulled out his phone, pulled up his social media, and deleted the half-written business proposal I knew he'd been working on. Teach me, he said quietly. For real this time. Jillian? I called. Think you can handle one more try with him? She grinned. If he promises to leave the Harvard attitude at home. Deal. I turned back to Bentley. But one more scheme, one more shortcut, and you're done. Understood? He nodded. Good. I straightened my jacket. Now, I have a client to smooth things over with. Mom, Dad, back to work. Bentley, Jillian's waiting. As they dispersed, Casey touched my arm. You're giving him another chance? No. I watched Bentley follow Jillian to the service area, his designer shoes finally replaced with proper work boots. I'm giving him what I never got, the chance to earn one. The sound of laughter drew me to the garage floor. Bentley lay under a Porsche, covered in oil, while Jillian coached him through a transmission repair. No, your other left, she teased. Harvard didn't teach spatial awareness? Very funny. He rolled out, grinning despite the grease smeared across his face. But I think I've got it now. Show me, I said, making them both jump. Bentley didn't hesitate. He walked me through the repair step by step, his hands sure and confident on the tools. No shortcuts, no excuses, just solid work. Not bad, I admitted. Almost like you've been paying attention. Had good teachers. He glanced at Jillian. Once I shut up and listened. Mom appeared from the inventory room, tablet in hand. Lillian, the new parts system is showing a discrepancy in the German imports. Show me. She pulled up the spreadsheet, pointing out the error she'd caught. If we adjust the ordering schedule, we could save 15% on shipping. Implementation plan? Already drafted. Your father's running the numbers now. I studied her face. No trace of the entitled woman who'd once refused to set foot in my grease pit. Just a competent employee who'd found her niche. Good work, I said. Both of you. Casey burst in, excitement clear on his face. You need to see this. He led us to the front office where Dad stood with Mr. Peterson and several other clients. Tell them, Mr. Peterson urged Dad. Well, Dad cleared his throat. After that transmission repair Bentley did on Mr. Peterson's Ferrari, word spread. We've got luxury car clubs from 3 states wanting exclusive service contracts. The Harvard kid who learned to turn a wrench. Mr. Peterson chuckled. Great PR story, but it's the quality work that sold me. I turned to Bentley, expecting to see his old smugness. Instead, he looked embarrassed. It wasn't just me, he said. Jillian did most of the work. I just assisted. And that, I said quietly, is why we're having this conversation. Later, after the contracts were signed and the clients gone, I called a family meeting. Not in the break room this time, but in my office. The debt's not fully paid, I began, but your work these past months has shown me something. That we were wrong about everything? Mom offered. That people can change, I corrected. When they want to badly enough. I pulled out 4 envelopes. What's this? Bentley asked. Your future, if you want it. I handed them out. Open them. Inside each envelope was a contract. Not for debt repayment this time, but for permanent positions. Real ones, with benefits and equity shares. You're making us partners? Dad stared at his contract. Junior partners, I clarified. Mom, you've revolutionized our inventory system. Dad, your customer service metrics are the highest we've ever had. And Bentley... He looked up from his contract. Yes? Jillian says you're ready to lead your own team, if you want it. He swallowed hard. I don't deserve this. No, you didn't, but you earned it. The hard way. Like you did, Mom said softly. Like I did. I sat back. So what's it going to be? Partners or competitors? Dad signed first, then Mom. Bentley stared at his contract longer. The old me would have seen this as a consolation prize, he said finally. Less than I deserved. And now? He picked up a pen. Now I know it's more than I deserve, but exactly what I need. As they left my office, contract signed, Casey lingered. You planned this all along, didn't you? He asked. The tough love, the manual labor, all of it? I planned to save the family business, I corrected. Just turned out to be a different business than they expected. Through the window, I watched Bentley return to the Porsche, Jillian already waiting with tools ready. Mom and Dad huddled over a tablet, pointing out something in the inventory system. They're not the same people who look down on your dreams, Casey observed. No, I agreed. They're better. They're real. Like their daughter? I smiled, remembering the scared teenager who'd first picked up a wrench, determined to prove everyone wrong. No, I said. Like themselves, finally. The sound of engines and laughter drifted up from the garage floor. The symphony of a family business running not on pretense, but on pride and honest work. And for the first time, I felt not just successful, but complete.